This is the Great North Wrestling Podcast, the official podcast of the Hannibal TV, Canada's #1 pro wrestling YouTube channel, with your host, three-time Canadian champion and GNW lead reporter, Devin Hannibal Nicholson.
This is Hannibal from thehannibaltv.com, and today we have a special guest on the line. He is someone you might remember from the Attitude Era in WWE, particularly for his Owen Hart impression, Jason Sensation. How are you doing today, Jason?
I'm doing okay. Thanks very much for asking. How are you doing today?
I'm not doing too bad. Do you still have the hair you used to have back in the late 90s? I remember you when you first appeared on the shopping channel there, doing the impressions, and it was all like pretty wild.
Yeah, I was really trying to grow in my Bret Hart do back in the day. I really tried my best to look like Bret Hart.
Well, you actually appear in the Wrestling with Shadows documentary, don't you? But as a fan, right?
That's right. I'm really happy about that they put me in that, because it's a really special documentary, and so every time I look back on it, it's almost like I forget I'm in it, and I pop up again. It's like it's very special to me
because for those who don't know, you were just
in wrestling, and
yeah,
I'm honored to be just a part of it.
Yeah, especially when that the Hart Foundation against the Americans was going on. The heat was incredible.
Such a good time. All of a sudden, Bret Hart catapulted into this super mainstream Canadian hero. All of us, every Canadian just flocked to the amazing whole Hart Foundation.
So were you actually discovered? Sorry, I won't cut you off. It's hard with phone interviews to know when people are stopped. I'm used to doing video interviews. But were you actually discovered from the shopping channel when you appeared as a fan, when WWE wrestlers were on there and you started doing impressions and they kind of discovered you?
Yeah, no, actually, I was just discovered just before that, but it was by Owen Hart, and it was at a meet and greet, and I was just I kind of went crazy with Owen and Davey Boy and doing impressions, going crazy. I'd never really been that up close and personal with a wrestler that I loved that much, and so I was just losing my mind, and Owen just, he had this little spark in his eye, what can I do with this guy to mess with the boys? And he brought me in the dressing room just to mess with the boys and do impressions, but it actually was my foot in the door. I gotta give him credit for discovering me. Yeah.
What is your favorite impression to do? Obviously, you're most known for the Owen Hart impression, but is that your favorite, or is there another one?
I don't know. It's a good question. There's a few, it's just weird in different periods or times. I use these impressions in my life. I don't know. Owen's a very fun one for me, and Bret Hart I really like. When I'm trying to make a statement to someone, I like to have my Bret Hart impression on. When I'm standing up to someone, I like to have a Stone Cold impression. I don't know, different ones in different times. It's hard to choose a favorite.
So what type of a contract did you actually have with him? Because I remember going to a house show in Ottawa around the late 90s, and you started the show off by doing some impressions. So was that something you were only doing around Ontario, or were you actually traveling to the U.S. and different parts of Canada doing that?
Oh, yeah, no, well, it's odd. Oh, man. I live in hindsight sometimes. At the time they brought me on, there was no contract signed or anything. It was just we're just going to bring this sideshow impersonator to the to the WrestleMania. It was a WrestleMania 14. It was the pre-show. What do they call it? They have a little gatherings before the WrestleMania. And it was one of those, and Shawn Michaels was coming out in Austin, and Hunter, and they thought, now we're gonna. I had met Vince at TSN's Off the Record, and I'd done Shawn Michaels' impression of Stone Cold and Owen. Vince was like, oh my gosh, you gotta get this guy on there. This guy's good. You can do Shawn Michaels? Wow, pal, that's good. Anyway, so now WrestleMania 14, they flew me out to do this shoot with them, and it went over so well, and everyone really was like just welcoming me in so much that they're like, we're going to use this guy. But I hadn't been signed to a contract, so when they eventually brought me on with the DX parody, it was like out of the blue. I did the show, I did the parody, and I was on TV, the week after. And then all of a sudden, I was caught at the border because they recognized me from Raw, and I wasn't allowed to cross because I actually didn't have any work permit. I had no contract with them. They were just bringing me in every time. It was just supposed to be a sideshow thing that kind of caught on. And now, all of a sudden, I was sent home, supposed to be on Raw one week, and I was sent home from the border and not allowed to cross the border until I had a work permit. And here I was at home now, I don't know what's going on, and they were like, whoa, we got to sign this guy to a contract right away, and they're sending me, in hindsight, man, I should have contacted WCW maybe, and what would you guys do? But anyway, at the time, they kind of scrambled to sign me to a contract at that time, and then I signed a 3-year talent contract, basically, so.
Speaking of WCW at that time, can you do Hulk Hogan?
Pardon me?
Can you do a Hulk Hogan impression?
Oh, I love Hulk Hogan. He's one of my favorites. It's one of the first voices I could do. Well, you know something, brother? Hulkamania, man. You know Hannibal TV. You don't know about Hulkamania, brother. Don't you be like Gawker, man. I'll see you and take all your money, and then what you gonna do, brother? I always loved Hogan. He's the guy who got me into it, man. Hulkamania lives forever.
Do you think he would try and sue me if you did a plug for Hannibal TV and I posted it with a picture of Hogan saying that it was him plugging it?
Brother, I'm suing you, Hannibal. I'm going for the 40 mil, man. I'm staying on the pool, brother.
What about superstar Billy Graham? He's a favorite, and I'll even play the impression for him if you could do superstar Billy Graham. I've never tried a superstar. Let me try. I've never even tried it. Let me think about this for a second. I'm superstar Billy Graham, baby. The reflections of perfection all over my veins and my body and my power and my muscle, the tower of power, too sweet to be sour, baby. I've never even tried it before. I don't even know how that came across. That's actually not bad. That is actually not bad at all. If you ever work on that, I'll do a clip of it and send it to him because I'm fairly close with him, and I'm sure.
Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome. I'll send him my blessings, please. Utmost respect. I'm every wrestling fan is a fan of his,
And one guy I really don't respect and I don't like, and I noticed on the internet that you actually wrestled him once, is Abdullah the Butcher. How did you end up wrestling that guy?
It was these guys, my old time friends, the Megan boys. They've been putting on these shows for years, and they were bringing him in, and they were like, no one wants to wrestle him. And for me at the time, it was I was in this weird mindset where it was my career was long over in WWE, and I was trying to somehow make a name for myself again. And I was getting in shape for the first time in my life, and I was like, wow, I should have tried this when I was under contract. But anyway, it was I could actually get into a little bit of shape here. And so I was trying to make a name for myself, and they called me no one wants to wrestle this guy. And I was like, I'll do it. I'll wrestle him. And they're like, he's going to blade you and whatever. I'm like, I'll take it. I'll do it. Just so the locker room can start to respect me as a freaking worker instead of just, I don't know. I've always had this nose down to me from the locker rooms. This guy didn't earn his dues, and I don't know. It's just this feeling I've always had from the locker room, and so it's just something I wanted to do to prove to the locker room like I was really in this business, and I'll fight my childhood frickin' nightmare just to prove to everybody that I'm part of this business. But boy, did he ever frickin' take me through the ringer, man. He sliced me open, that guy. Oh my gosh. 14 slices in my head. I could not believe this fucking animal. He's a fucking sadomasochist.
Well, he is. He actually, and this is true, this is 100% true. He is addicted to cutting both himself and other people 100% because...
Really?
Oh, he's been cutting himself ever since like the 1960s, almost on a daily basis, and he enjoys it. And he...
I'm so lucky that I didn't cut him in that match, or he didn't cut himself in that match, because I didn't know about, the hepatitis.
That he has.
Yeah, see, I swear I didn't know about it at that time, and it all came out after, and I was so fucking scared, and I had to go get tested. I'm just so lucky that I'm very lucky, because I was close to getting that from him too, you know.
Yeah, and I gotta ask if you can do an impression of him, because his voice is actually really hilarious.
Jeez, I don't know if I could.
It's very high pitched. If anyone's listening.
I don't know. I'd have to work on that one.
He calls everybody either Champ or Gabe for some reason. Like, he's a weird guy.
Gabe, get away from me. I can't.
Yeah,
I'd have to work on it.
What about The Undertaker?
I'm The Undertaker. Jason, you dropped the ball, kid. And now you're going to have to rest in peace.
That's pretty good. How did he treat you backstage?
Oh, my gosh. He was so good to me. The Undertaker was so nice to me. I am so grateful to have known him, to have met him. And he's very respectful. And I don't know, like, during the beginning, during the first little while, he was, he messed with me a bit. He joked with me. Like, I didn't think he liked me. Like, he'd walk into a dressing room that I was sitting in, and he's like,
"Oh, look, it's sensations here. Look, you steal another paycheck from the company."
I'm just like, shit, this guy hates me. He's the boss, and he hates me. But he was always just messing with me. But the last time I saw him was WrestleMania 18. Molly Holly, bless her. She's such a sweetheart, Nora. She brought me to the WrestleMania after party.
Yeah.
And so it was like my goodbye to so many people. I didn't get a chance to say goodbye after I got let go, and it's like she opened the door so I could say goodbye to people. But it's funny that he came to me that day, and he sat beside me. He's like, pull up a chair, and he sat beside me, and he's just like, "Kid, I used to come to the house shows, and you'd be doing your stick in the beginning, you'd be doing my voice, and then I'd think that they were playing free tapes, and then it was you, man." And like, he was so nice to me. He was like letting me know that I was his greatest impersonator. No one could do his voice like him. And he wished me all the best throughout my life. He didn't know I'd get let go. He always thought I'd be a part of the company, but because I did, he just wished me all well. And like, he was so respectful to me. Like, I didn't expect it from like the boss, Like, it was very nice of him to sit me down and just give me that moment. I'll always remember that.
Who has the best Randy Savage impersonation that you've heard? So many people do him.
Oh my gosh. Well, I always thought mine was the best. But this guy, Al Ruddick, this guy, he dresses up like all the wrestlers. He has their costumes. He creates their costumes himself. I'm like, he should have been Jason Sensation. This guy is like, I don't know, maybe not, he doesn't have the voices down that I have, but in character, in look, in costume, he's got it all down, and he does have the Macho Man down so good that I'm like, he actually is my greatest competitor. This is the Macho Man impression. This guy, Al Ruddick.
What would Macho Man have to say to Lanny Poffo about putting him in the WWE Hall of Fame when he asked not to be put in unless Lanny and his father were also put in before he passed away? What would he tell Lanny?
It was like, Lanny Poffo, I cannot believe you, my brother. I mean, you're my brother. Yeah, and I love you. I do love you. I love you like a brother, and I'm always going to love you. Yeah, I'm always going to love you, and I'm never going to change that love. But, Lanny, I can't believe that you introduced Hulk Hogan. Yeah, that chump, Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Yeah, you introduced him to induct me. Without inducting you and Dad, I'm not very happy about that. But Lanny Poffo, yeah, I can't hold it against you. Yeah, you little glorified genius. Yeah, you needed the fame. You needed the glory. Yeah, but the Macho Man was alive. My grave, don't dig it. I would not have gone in with Hulk Hogan. Yeah, I would have gone in with you, genius, and Papa Poffo. Oh, yeah, dig it.
And Macho Man did have a point, because apparently he said if, like, all the Von Erich family went in there, and, like, Lanny was actually more famous than some of the Von Erich kids, so it was a
really? That is a good point.
Yeah, because he said if the Von Erichs could all go in, then the Poffos can go in as a group.
Yeah, that is, yeah. I don't know. Like, my heart, like, I love Macho. I'm, like, a huge Macho Man fan, so
and that is
I wish he could have had it his way. Yeah, it breaks my heart that he wanted to be buried with his dog, and it's like, you know, is that his best friend in the world was his dog? It's like, you know, I don't know. It just makes me a little half sad. I shouldn't, you know, judge him on it, but just like, I don't know. If that's what he wished, why couldn't he just have that wish? You know?
Well, was the dog already dead?
yeah. And he wanted to be buried with the dog after. Like, I don't know. If that was his one wish for his dad and his brother to be inducted with him, it's like, you know, the guy gave us so much. He's just, you know, he's embarked on our childhood memories. Like, why not give him what he wanted? But whatever. I'm not the judge.
No, there was obviously some heat there, and they probably didn't want to give him what he wanted, and they probably
good point.
threw some money around to...
I don't even know where the heat... Like, yeah, I've heard so many of those, you know, stories, but who knows where it came from. It's too bad.
Did you ever get to meet Ric Flair, who recently got married again, allegedly?
Woo! I'm so happy he married Fifi. That is amazing. Like, what? That is a beautiful story. Because we while we were growing up, we were watching him and Fifi together. It's kind of cool. But anyway, I did meet Ric Flair. The first time, I met him a couple times. But the first time I met him, and it was later, it was long after my, you know, Jason Sensation days in WWE. And he had just got, oh yeah, it was that same party. That's right. It's the same party that Molly Holly brought me to. Nora Greenwald, the WrestleMania 18 after party. So, excuse me, pardon me. I was famous in Memphis with the Memphis Crew at the time while I was in that farm team. I was famous for doing Ric Flair impressions and firing people. Even when, even when I got let go, I was firing myself as Ric Flair to the boys. Like, it was an ongoing, very funny. I say the boys, but the gals too. You know, Molly was in the group, Victoria was, and Bobcat. There was a few girls on the roster there. Anyway, so
how did you fire yourself as Ric Flair?
I got off the phone. Kevin Kelly called me, and I lived with the Clique. I lived with Daniel Bryan and Brian Kendrick and Lance Cade and Shooter Schultz. I lived with them. Daniel Bryan had moved out, so Daniel and Shooter moved out, and so it was just me, Lance, and Spanky living there. And I got off the phone. It was Kevin Kelly called you, and I answered. And, you know, Kevin was he was such a graceful, good guy to me on the phone. Like, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what a great person he was. Like, oh my gosh, like I'll never forget what a wonderful guy he was. Anyway, he was like, Jason, don't go jump off a bridge, because people get called back all the time. I really begged them to let me make this call. I was like, yeah, I know, because he's like, because we're good friends, right? I'm like, oh yeah, buddy. Anyway, 2 thumbs up to Kevin fucking Kelly. But anyway, I got off the phone, and I was a little shaken up and taken back, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And I looked at Spanky and Lance, and they looked at me, and they're like, what did he say? And I was like, well, sensation, you're fired. You're fired. Woo! And Spanky's like, really? No, we're not talking. You're going home for a week. You're fired, sensation. Get on a plane and go home. You're fired. Anyway, Spanky was pretty hurt by that. And it's almost like Spanky was more hurt than me, and I was just like, fuck, I'm saving my tears for later, pal. But he was like, no, pal. Like, he was such, Spanky was such a, Brian Kendrick was really good to me. He was such a good guy to me on his first days and my last days. Like, he took care of me and made sure I was part of the angle. I had 4 or 5 spots cheating into the match. Like, he made sure I was part of everything. Like, he really protected me and took care of me. And, like, you know, he was younger than me, but I look up to him like a brother, you know. He was a good guy to me.
Now, Harry Smith watches this channel a lot, and he's good friends with me. And recently, Jake the Snake had some bad comments about Davey Boy Smith, and Harry had a little altercation with him. And I was wondering if you could do like a Davey Boy Smith promo on Jake Roberts.
Well, I hope it wouldn't offend anybody. The fact of the matter is, Jack Roberts, you think you can talk about me, you think you can say things about me that aren't true, but guess what? My son, Harry, he'll show up when you least expect it, and he'll throw a big cup of coffee in your face, and he'll burn your face right off. You look like a damn zombie, Jet the Snake, Zombie Roberts. You keep your mouth shut about the British Bulldog. There you go.
That's pretty
I tried my best. Sorry. I hope it doesn't offend anyone. I love, you know, I'm very close with Harry and Georgia, and I love their family very much. So, you know, I wouldn't want to ever offend anybody.
Oh, I know he won't be offended by that. And what about the Honky Tonk Man's been with Great North Wrestling off and on all the time? I know you got to have a Honky Tonk Man one.
I don't know if I have a honky impression. Let me try. I'm a honky tonk man. I don't know, man. I'd have to work on the honky.
Oh, man, I'm disappointed because he was around at that time.
Yeah, you're right. He's a classic. I should have him down. It's just like almost I have to think about it because I'm like half like wanting to do I'm the honky tonk man, sing, and then the other part of me is like, fuck this guy, fuck that guy. You know? Yeah. He's just all I ever hear from him now is shooting on people. But I love him. Honky's so great. He's very entertaining. Whether he's the honky tonk man in the ring or he's doing a shoot interview, he's very entertaining.
We actually have like a 3-hour one of him up on this channel, and it is about.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I gotta check that out. Yeah, see, that's why I can't do him justice unless I actually practice it for a second. Because he's a legend. I don't want to fuck it up, you know.
Now, you told me you just watched the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view. I don't really follow wrestling anymore, but do you follow it closely today still?
No, that's the thing is I don't really follow it as closely as I used to. And my dad, he really loves it still. Like he follows it very closely. Like he is a true fan. My dad, like he says, like before you were watching, I was watching back in the San Martino days. He's been watching, and he still follows it. He's just like, I'm a real wrestling fan, you know. But anyway, so he's got the network. So sometimes when I come visit him, I get to tune in. That's what happened. That Raw at Toronto was like.
Yeah, anyway, what the hell happened there? Do you want to explain that to everybody? Because that made headlines. You made headlines again. You were in the news.
Yeah, I did it. 20 years. I finally made the news again. Great. Oh my gosh, I didn't expect that. That's the thing. Is that my dad's got the network. It's it's hard to get into. You know, I suffer from depression and some mental issues, and it's hard to dive into this whole thing. I don't want to sugarcoat it either, but you know, I've got some issues, and I've got some issues with wrestling, and I've got some issues with how my career went, and I don't know. I guess I'm very hurt about how my career went in WWE and the way it ended, and some of the things that happened to me that, you know, I stuck through to try to still make a career out of it, and the fact that I didn't make a career out of it in WWE, it really hurt me. It's like, as years went by, in hindsight, it was hard on me that, hey, I went through this and that, and I stuck it out, and come on. Anyway, like, I don't know, it's so hard to dive into, but, you know, I have some emotional issues when it comes to wrestling, when it comes to WWE. They were in town, and I was just in an emotional state. I was actually visiting my dad and my sister's place, and I had a few drinks with my sister, my younger sister. Sometimes we have a few drinks together. And I had a few drinks, and I passed out, and I woke up, and I was just like, oh, great, Raw. My dad was he loves wrestling so much, he was getting ready to watch Raw, and he's like, it's live from Toronto. And I went into my depressive state in that moment. I was just like, you know, yeah, here they are in Toronto. Like, okay, I was thinking of whoever I'm in contact with in the company that didn't call me. And I was thinking of whoever my friends are out of the company. This is very selfish thinking, mind you, but this is
all wrestlers are very selfish, though. That's not anything personal against you.
Like, yeah, I'm embarrassed to admit where my mind was at, but it was in a very selfish state. I woke up, I was half drunk, and I looked at my phone, and I was like, no one messaged me. It's like none of my friends that are going to the show messaged me. No one from the show messaged me, and it's just like I've had some history with the company where I've sent out a whole bunch of shit online that's definitely burned my bridges and blackballed me from the company forever. And it was years ago, and every now and then I say something stupid again because I'm hurting and I'm trying to just get a reaction out of them. Like, do you even notice me? Like, why can't you see me? Like, it was like, it's from a place of being hurt and never getting even a mention back again. Like, I can never get enough. Like, Triple H will sign the wellness program letter to me. He'll sign it personally and he'll send it to me, but I can't get a tweet back or a message back online, and it's like I feel like I've so been blacked out from them that I can never even get their attention. And so for years I've been sending out stupid shit like that for years, but this was something that I didn't even think through, and I didn't realize that there had been a couple of shootings. Like, the officer that had to detain me and handcuff me explained to me about the shootings in Florida and the game day shooting, and it was just like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this was going on. I've been like so out of the loop. But I woke up out of this stupid state. I felt like nobody noticed me. I was like, yeah, no one messaged me there, no one messaged me there. It was like a very fast thought, like, here, this might get their attention. Okay, yeah, whatever. And I went back to sleep. When my older sister came home, she came running downstairs like, Jason, you don't understand what you've done. And I was Like, oh, it's okay. Don't worry, sis. I'll just deactivate my Twitter. I didn't even notice. I was half drunk. I didn't even know what I said. And I deactivated my Twitter without even realizing what I said. And the next person down the stairs was an officer. I was like, oh, my gosh, this is real. And the officer, after they detained me, they were showing me that I was on TMZ and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, my gosh. Like, I didn't. Like, it came from a hurt place. It came from a sad place. But I wasn't trying to get that attention this time. It was just me saying what the fuck ever and going back to sleep. Like, I really did not put any thought into what I had said in that tweet. And when I reread it, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's a fucking awful tweet. And I got it. Like, I've been getting nothing but very negative feedback from it, from a lot of people, and I get it. Like, I'm not even going to try to fight anyone on it, because I get it. It was wrong. It was, people were saying I was scared. I was scared I was going to have to cover my children, and it was like, oh my gosh, like, I didn't realize the magnitude of what I had even said. I sent out something from a hurt place without thinking, and, you know, I deal with mental illness. I do have suffering feelings and suffering pains, and I do suffer from time to time, and there's times that I wish I didn't even have to be here to deal with my own pain, but I don't want to die. I don't want to kill myself. When I had a heart attack, I realized it was like, well, I don't want to die. As much as I have been this sad that I've been to places where I felt like I could die and it was okay. I would rather die than feel the pain I feel. It's like, when it push came to shove, I was like, I don't really want to die. So I regret sending that tweet out.
This is Hannibal from the HannibalTV.com, cutting into the last part of the podcast here because unfortunately the recorder I was using to record this podcast is a piece of garbage and cut off the last 15 to 20 minutes of the podcast, which included some really good stuff. So we are going to have the one and only Jason Sensation back on the Great North Wrestling Podcast in the future. You can follow Jason on Twitter at Jason Sensation X. If you want to check him out, that's JASONSENSATION X on Twitter. And I am going to buy myself a new recording device because next week I'm interviewing Stone Cold Steve Austin's ex-wife, Janie Clark, who is from England, and she actually came up with the Stone Cold name. And she has a book out, and a very interesting person, has a lot of information about Gino Hernandez's death. For those of you that have been subscribers to the Hannibal TV for a while now, I have been doing a lot of interviews on that topic, and there's going to be a documentary about Gino's death coming out on Vice TV soon that Jeannie is a part of. And they're also doing documentaries, I guess, on Bruiser Brody's murder and the Montreal Screwjob. A lot of topics that we actually cover on this channel, so I suspect they may have been watching this channel a little bit to get some of their ideas. But thanks a lot for Jason for doing this. And for those of you that want to help me get better equipment, please become a Patreon member, patreon.com/The Hannibal TV. It's only $1.99 a month. We post our full shoot interviews on there sooner and ad-free. So our next set of interviews in Tennessee are going to include Dutch Mantel, Psycho Sid Vicious, Superstar, Bill Dundee, Jerry Jarrett, and I'm working on others. Tracy Smothers is going to be in those. So that's our next set. And I might be doing some in LA in December because I just found out this past Saturday that I have been accepted into the New Japan training camp for December in LA, the week-long training camp they're having there. I couldn't help but apply for that because I've always wanted to wrestle for New Japan Pro Wrestling. So we'll see how that training camp goes. No matter what, it's going to be a learning experience, and
I'm going to get some good footage while I'm in LA. So next week, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, The Hannibal TV. And if you're listening to this on iTunes, give it a 5-star rating, because we're trying to grow the podcast version of this The Hannibal TV and Great North Wrestling brand. I'm really going to be focusing on it. This is, I think, my 6th or 7th podcast in a row, which is a record for me. So anyway, subscribe, like, give us the 5-star rating. And if you have any questions you want me to ask future guests, I just named a bunch of them, email them to greatnorthwrestling@gmail.com. Great North Wrestling has at least one event in the future. It's going to be in May 2019 in Smith Falls, Ontario. There may be an event before that. We'll keep you posted on that right here on the Great North Wrestling Podcast and our The Hannibal TV YouTube channel. That's it for this week. This is Hannibal from TheHannibalTV.com.
Thank you for listening to the Great North Wrestling Podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes and subscribe to the Hannibal TV on YouTube for all the latest GNW news and videos. Follow at Devin Hannibal on Twitter and check out our website at thehannibaltv.com.